Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with French-based jazz pianist Marc Benham. We talked to him from his home just outside of Paris on April 6, 2020 during the spring coronavirus quarantine. We talked about no live jazz and much more. He started studying classical music in France and Belgium as a child and discovered the Harlem stride piano and the New Orleans jazz scene thanks to his dad, who's a Dixieland saxophonist and a swing lover. That led him to the Bill Evans Piano Academy in Paris and a very rich jazz career. Have a listen.
So you're in Paris, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, not right now because of what's happening. So I'm in Bretagne, so in the west of France. You know.
Okay.
But I'm based in Paris.
So now I know, New York's kind of getting a lot of the lion's share of the American attention right now, and I've been following with, Italy and some of the other countries. Has it peaked in Paris yet, or what's going on specifically over there?
No. I just watched the news today, and I saw that today it was quite horrible actually. We were thinking that it would, start to get down, but still not. So we are stuck for a moment, So the government tells us that we're supposed to stay confined 2 more weeks, but I think it's gonna last months. But we don't really know actually. So
well, I guess the hope, because I think being in too long is going to be really bad for everybody, is that maybe after April, there is a chance that certain things can be opened and some level of life can be attained again.
Yeah. Let's hope so.
So that's the hope, but we're still kind of waiting to see what's happening here. But you gotta wait and stay positive. And one of the reasons why I've really wanted to do these interviews is to kind of give everybody a chance to, think about music and get away from the headlines.
Absolutely, Joe, and thanks very much for having me. By the way,
yeah, my pleasure.
So we are very. I think that music can be have a role, in that crisis, even if clubs are closed, and so. But lots of musicians are trying to, get at some things on the internet and try to share because it's an important moment, and I think that music is a good evasion. I don't know if it's an English word, to help to think about other things and to travel in a way.
Yeah, without a doubt. No, I totally agree. So what I want to start off with is your latest album, Biotope. Talk to me a little bit about your latest CD.
Yes. To tell you about me in a few words, I've been playing jazz since I've been a kid. I will tell you the story of that. But when I started to record CDs, I strangely started by playing, recording solo piano albums, and then a duet, and playing, with the rhythm section. It's something I did a lot during gigs, but I never had the idea to record something like this. And then, I was in touch with John Hebert since a long time because we had a friend in common. And then one day he told me, we are coming in Paris for gigs with Fred Hersch Trio, and I've got a day off, so what about, meeting up? And I said, yeah. And you think that Eric could be among us? And he said, yeah. So, and I said to myself, okay, why not try to record a session? So we made it in one day, actually. So I had some compositions that could fit, and some standards that I loved. So I said, okay, let's do it. And we met and we recorded, like a kind of old school way, I would say, because, in one day I think we recorded like 15 tracks, and at the end, 10 were okay to be to be released. So the CD was born in that way.
So talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how you got involved with jazz. How did it all begin for you?
Actually, I had the luck to have a father who was a saxophone player in bands, and so he initiated me very early. So I had some classical private lessons, but I was really focusing on jazz back in the day, because after that, like when I was like 20 and so, I started again to rediscover classical music. But at that time, when I was like 7, 8 years old, I was only listening to a few jazz records, always the same, by the way. It was like Art Tatum and essentially Art Tatum. I've always been fascinated by all the guys who play the stride piano, and I come from that music because my father was playing old jazz and New Orleans jazz and Dixieland, and he told me about the importance of playing stride. And so I started to discover guys like, godfathers, I would say, like James P. Johnson, Fats Waller, and Willie Smith, and all the others. And he gave me a chance to do some jam sessions in his band quite early, like I was like 11 or so. And then he hired me. I played with him during like 15 years, and learning a lot with musicians. So my musical education was essentially made with older musicians giving me advice and shouting after me sometimes and telling me to lay out. But that's a good school, I think. And I got into jazz by that way, and also by listening to CDs and trying to play again upon them. So that's how it started.
Cool. So did you always know you wanted to be a musician, or were there other things you were thinking about?
It's hard to say. I really loved it, but I didn't figure myself as becoming a professional musician, not before like 20s, I would say. I don't really remember what I wanted to do, but at the end I was very bad at school, and I was really having lots of time hanging around the piano. So I said, okay, why not? And I had the big luck because as I just started to do the job as a professional musician, I had some opportunities to enter a band, and it was not really jazz. It was kind of jazz mixed with electronic music, and the band was like really playing a lot of gigs, and so I started that way, and we made some tours during 3 years, a little bit all around the world, and so that gave me lots of energy to be a jazz musician. But after that tour ended, it was like, okay, man, so now I don't have any gigs anymore, and that's gonna be tough to find some new ones. And then I started to hang a lot in clubs and meet lots of other musicians, and then really start to play the music that I really loved above all, which was jazz. But I also had the chance to play lots of other styles, like French folk music, and accompanying lots of singers, and that was all the gigs I made. Lots of different things. I played in a circus. I played in. I had to play also, with dumb movies, and piano accompanying, and so that's for those things. The stride piano playing was really a weapon, and so it helped me a lot. That's also why I started by recording solo piano albums, because I was doing so many stride back then.
So what do you like best about being a professional musician?
I would say it's maybe essentially a question of freedom, even if it's hard to get some gigs sometimes. And right now I wouldn't say I'm only a musician because I'm also teaching music a lot. And to me it's kind of complementarity because I think it's really important to share what you discovered. And so I would say that both activities are really made my life quite complete. I don't know how to say it in a different way. And so, I love being a musician and trying to compose and have some time sometimes, to take some time to think about composition and music and finding new ideas. So it's kind of freedom. And then 3 days a week, I'm at the conservatory or I'm teaching in 2 schools in Paris. It's kind of a good balance, I think.
Absolutely. So when this coronavirus, COVID-19 passes and all of the music starts up live again, what do you hope both the musician and the audience member realizes about this time? What do you hope they come back with when the music begins again?
I think maybe it could be a good opportunity for people to measure the chance of going out to listen to music, and I hope that there are going to be some change, of course, that we're going to live differently. Maybe we could travel less, and which is a shame because it's really cool to be able to play wherever in the world. But I think there is something about the conscience of the health of the planet, and so maybe we wouldn't take planes. We would travel more by trains and so. And musicians could fulfill the role of what they were before. I think which were musicians for the neighborhood or something like that. And we could communicate more with the social networks and so. But it's in the same time it's a little bit frustrating, I would say, because it's so cool to have an opportunity to share music and discover it to the largest audience. But I really truly hope that people are gonna go out more. But just after they take a risk of getting the virus again or so. So I don't know how many times it's gonna last. So the truth. So I'm quite afraid, but but we'll see how things are going, and we're gonna go on doing what we love, like you're doing and like me. So go on writing, go on playing, and I'm not really on the social network, very active. I said, I'm not posting videos all the time, so it's quite rare. I didn't yet, so I don't really know. I don't really feel the impact of what it could, have, because first of all, in my social network, they are mainly musicians, so I'm overwhelmed with the video of music. Everybody is doing that. But maybe among my non-musician friends, sometimes I think that they could appreciate to have some music in that time and some fresh things from me, for example. So
yeah. So let's say once this is all lifted, you do make it to Kansas City and you perform live. What would a live show by you be like?
I'm thinking about so I was working a lot on the on this latest album. So I plan to play in trio a lot, and I've got other projects, but I want to play in trio. So as it's not that easy to get John and Eric back in Paris, without having to deal with the flight tickets, and so I have to have my own band in France. And so first of all, we're gonna play in town, and I think it's gonna be lots of new stuff, lots of new compositions with my influence, which are always moving, because I'm always listening to new things, or especially to all things that I didn't know yet. And I'm truly inspired by new guys that I wasn't really listening to when I was like 10 years younger. Like, for instance, I've always been like fascinated by Thelonious Monk, but I discovered like Herbie Nichols lots after, and pianists like John Lewis, or lots of other influences that I didn't have back, and whose print I would like to get a little bit more involved. I don't know if you understand what I say.
Yeah.
And and so my compositions are quite evolving in that way, and so I would love my concerts to be inspired by that emotion, which I would say, not speaking about Herbie Nichols, but I would say some things sometimes more quieter and more mature, because I'm getting old, and so I'm not like I used to love to play like very up tempos all the time, and now I'm like a little bit more into balance, So I guess it's moving in the spirit all life long. I mean, one of my big examples is Hank Jones. I mean, I saw him in concert. He was like more than 90 years old, and the music was so perfect. To me, it's like martial arts. I mean, you can take a guy who's like he's 25 years old, very strong, lots of muscles, and he can break brick walls, and then he meets that guy 70 years old, and the guy makes one little move, and then the young is on the ground, because the old guy spent all his life like to take off lots of things he had, all the too much per se, all the unuseful stuff, and so the skills that are left are the main thing. I mean, control and spirituality, I would say.
Right on. That's great. It's a great answer. Hey, Marc, thank you for taking some time out during this very strange and surreal time in the world to talk about music and what's going on.
All right. It's my pleasure, Joe. Thank you so much, and lots of good things for you guys and everybody in Kansas City.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Paris, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Marc for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.